Good. And here we are again with the Doer and the Thinker podcast. I'm your co-host, Xander Gray.
I'm Jonathan Serrano.
And today, we're just going to have a little chat.
I'm your other co-host, Jonathan Serrano.
I thought you already said that.
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
I didn't say other co-host. I just said my name. Like if I'm a guest in this
I
show.
mean, that's why I said co-host. Okay, so we're trying another thing where we want to make it more organic conversation-wise, because the last one, it felt like a little restrictive.
Yeah.
So we're just going to play around again because we're still trying to figure out our bearings here. So you had a thing that you want to talk about. So let's talk about. I have an idea of it, but not really what's going on. So let's just have a conversation then.
So I think in the last episode, so the last time we spoke, you said something and it kind of struck me, not in a bad way, just in a way that kind of made me think about it. So you said that I was bad at emotions, right? Mm-hmm. And then when you said that, I was just like, bitch, why are you smiling?
Nothing. I'm agreeing. Emotion.
So when you said that, I was like, nah, I'm not. But I'm not, you know?
Yeah.
But I can see that how from your perspective, and that's what I was trying to understand, is like how from your perspective I would be bad at emotions. So when I was thinking about it, I'm not bad at emotions because I'm often able to understand and identify really quickly how I feel, what emotions I'm going through, right? Mm-hmm. But what I am bad at and what I have been working on, and for some reason moving up here has really changed that, is I'm really bad at communicating those emotions in a way that shows that emotion, right? It sounds weird, but hear me out. Mm-hmm. So if I'm angry and you and I are having a discussion, and I'm angry, I'm not going to be angry. I'm just going to tell you I'm upset. I'm angry.
Okay.
You know? And if you like say that you were my girlfriend or my wife, mm-hmm. and I'm like
already.
But let me have your hand though.
Okay.
I'm seeing it, and I'm already uncomfortable with this. And this has nothing to do with that you're Xander Gray. It's that I'm just uncomfortable with this. Instead of communicating an emotion of love by showing love, mm-hmm. I'm just going to communicate that I feel love towards you. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I'd say, hey, I love you and I appreciate you.
Mm-hmm. I purposefully looked you in the eye when you said that, and I could tell how uncomfortable you were.
Yeah, see? And there was like no love and emotion. There was no love and appreciation in that emotion, in that sentence, So it's weird because before we left California, we had like these events, right? Mm-hmm. And I would say, hey, you know what, guys? Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. And you know what? I just really appreciate this time that I'm spending with you guys, my friends, family,
Before you went out here?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And almost every time I said anything like that, because it wasn't just like, just not as we were leaving, but like, let's say like the last year, I was trying to improve this, right? And almost every time that I would say that, people would kind of look at me and then wait for a joke almost, and I'm like, well, that's it. And they're just like, oh, you're serious. And I'm like, yeah, I'm serious. I'm telling you, I appreciate you, Mm-hmm. And they're just like, oh, like, I didn't realize that you were being serious. I didn't realize that you were,
Yeah.
So I think that is what I'm really bad at. And it's not that I'm not feeling the emotions. It's not that I'm not aware, right? Because I'm aware of how I feel. It's just the ability to communicate.
Do you feel like... I have a couple questions. So do you feel like when they talk to you and they're like, oh, you're not joking? First question is, do you get offended by that? And then second question is, do you know your like love language? Like, what do you know, like how you like to, because for me, like I love being affectionate and stuff. But I don't really know exactly what my love language is. Mm-hmm. But for you, maybe that's not yours. Maybe yours is like service. Like maybe yours is like helping other people, whatever. That's your love language. You don't need like that physical touch, that physical whatever. But that doesn't mean you don't love somebody or love doing something or whatever. It's just you have a different love language.
Right.
So
can we go over what that means? What are love languages for people that may not know?
So I don't know the exact definition, but it's like whatever that makes you feel loved and how you give the love, right? So it's like for me, how I appreciate the love is you doing things for me without me asking, but also appreciate like the stuff that I do. Meaning, if I'm an artist, so if I write a song or whatever, and I do my podcast or whatever, this podcast, I don't want to have to tell you to listen to it. I don't want to have to tell you to like check my song out, because for me personally, I don't like doing that. Mm-hmm. But if I put it out there, I post it, whatever, social media, and then you, without me telling you what to do, you text me or you call me or whatever, you're like, dude, I listen to your song, dude, I listen to your podcast, dude, I fucking love it. Like, that song is dope. That makes me feel awesome inside.
So those would be words of affirmation.
Right. So that's me receiving it. And I think giving it for me is being affectionate. That's how I give it, by touch, by hugging or whatever. That's my love language, I feel like. And by showing up.
Yeah.
That's how I do it.
I think that for people that hopefully would be listening
or not confused by it,
it's the 5 languages of love, and that is an amazing book. It kind of really changed my life, my relationship mostly with everybody, not just my wife. So that's actually one of the standard presents. Like when somebody gets married now, that's one of the things that we buy them. So we buy them sex pillows. We buy them
like a bolster, like sex pillow. You fuck with the pillow?
Yeah. No,
Oh, you don't, the triangle thingy?
Yeah, the pyramid. It's like a, yeah.
I need one. Anyway, go on.
Hey, we haven't got you a wedding present yet. So, that's the first one. Second one, squatty potty, right?
Oh, yeah, perfect.
Because everybody needs a squatty potty.
Dude, your birthday's
It's not an ad, but maybe it will, because, hey.
Dude, your birthday's coming up. I think I know what I'm going to get you. But do you like to know or you don't like to know?
Okay, so here's my thing.
Okay.
I'm fucking Bruce Wayne, dude. Don't tell me, but I love to figure it out.
I feel like you don't know what I'm going to get you, though.
I don't know, but all I need is like just a tiniest little hint. Like Dunya will hate that I do it, but she'll do it anyways.
Yeah.
And just tell me the color. Just tell me the color of it. Just tell me what it sounds like.
Oh. But that's like you're asking a lot of clues, though.
Yeah, well, that's how you figure stuff out. I don't need a lot of clues.
How about we'll do that when it's like a week before your birthday? You can start asking the questions.
I'm down.
Okay.
So the next 2 things are going to be something for your household and something for your relationship. So the next thing is that we purchased is a book by Dave Ramsey, The Total Money Makeover. It's about paying off debt, about being financially safe and comfortable.
Just kidding. Probably need it. Go ahead.
And then after that, it's the 5 languages of love.
Okay.
So the 5 languages of love.
So basically, to fuck, to shit, to save money, and then how to love each other.
Exactly. That's a good base. That's a good foundation.
You know what I'm saying? Ow. Okay.
So get the foundation for your family. So the 5 languages of love. You got physical touch. You have words of affirmation, quality time. And then the other 2. What are the other 2?
I have no idea. I know that it's a thing.
Oh, favors. And I can't remember the last.
Do they talk about receiving and giving too? That's the difference.
Absolutely.
That's the difference,
so there is a
right?
difference. Yeah.
Okay. So I was right when I brought
That's the whole premise of the book, right? Is like, first of all, figure out your language of love so that you can understand how you communicate love. That's what it's about. How do you communicate love? So you figure out how you communicate love, how you receive it, so that you can communicate that to your partner, so your partner can hopefully work on it. And then you kind of start to figure out, how, if you and I were partners, how do you receive love? How do you communicate love? So that I can start to do those things, right? So I think that a lot of the things that happen in relationships is you get caught up in this like savage circle where it's like, it's always not always, but it's a deficit, right? So like, for example, you like for me to make you dinner, and I don't like to make dinner, right? So I don't make dinners, but then I like for you to watch my favorite TV show with me, but you don't want to do that because I didn't make you dinner, right? And it's just a savage circle.
I got you.
So it's something that's lacking. And obviously that's a very simple, very base example, but it goes bigger, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing of like a base foundation of any relationship is reciprocity, right? Because and it has to be a beneficial type of cycle, like, and it's not because I'm doing this to benefit you. I'm doing this because I want to make you happy. I'm doing this because I love you, and in return, you accept that love, you appreciate that love, and then you do the same for me. And then after that,
right,
you just keep growing. That's like part of a foundation. And then
it is,
obviously with communicating and respecting each other, trust, whatever.
Yeah, but
I think it's hilarious.
The thing is, you have to identify that stuff, though.
Of course, yeah. You can't just automatically know. I think, and that goes with everything. So that's why I can't relate to, or I can't, I don't want to say relate. Maybe I can't communicate or understand somebody that says or knows that I know everything, and everything you know, I know more than you. I'm like, what? Like, to me, it's hard for me to communicate with that person. Almost, it's like it's like you're talking, like I'm talking, and you're just waiting for me to finish so you can either one up me or say something else.
You already got something in the bag.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not a conversation, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. I think that it's, I mean, I don't know, that this whole like emotionalness and 5 languages of love kind of thing, it's like very difficult because you have to kind of step outside your comfort zone, right? Like you have to, and I don't want to speak for other people. I can only speak for myself. And for myself, the first initial struggle was being a dude and trying to be responsible, what I feel like a dude should be, right? And trying to be responsible, trying to be whatever, was modeled to me as a child. Right. Even though I identified a lot of those things as a child and knew that I didn't want to do that. But still, I catch myself like doing some things, right? So I think that is like one of the first struggles. But then after that, taking the time to really self-assess and understand what you're feeling, it's hard for a lot of people because now you have to face certain feelings.
Do you feel like when you see a dude or a man, I mean, on top of taking care of their family or whatever, but do you feel like if they show any sign of weakness or emotion, do you feel like that person is not a man, or is that what you're...
No, not at all. Okay. I actually admire anybody that can show emotion and be honest with their emotions. But I admire men that have no issue doing that, and I try to model that, right? So you and I have had a lot of conversations, and you know that I pretty much have zero holdback when it comes to
I just
talking about
realized?
anything.
Sorry.
What'd you forget to do?
I need to turn this off.
Damn. All this content now wasted.
No, it's not wasted. It's just now I turned it off.
Pouring out my heart and soul. Now I got to start from the beginning.
I was like, what is that?
Welcome to the Doer and Thinker podcast.
Oh my God. It's not like I haven't done this before, huh? I did that. Anyway, yeah, go on. Okay. So you think you admire it, and also you see it as like inspiration. Like, right. Like that's like, I should be more like that.
Yeah. And I think that, it was hard for me to understand people like that for a while, and it made me really uncomfortable when people did that to me, like, or towards me, and kind of really being honest with their emotions. But now I feel like it's starting to become easier for me to do it, and I do it. My issue is just that I can't communicate that emotion while showing that emotion because I don't know.
It's just something that you're not used to.
Yeah, I'll tell you how I feel, and I'll give you honesty and genuine, emotion, but it's hard for me to communicate it with everything else. I feel like I mean, to be completely honest, right? This is what we want to do, right? So I had no issue with that as a young teenager, not teenager, but like,
Whippersnapper.
you know, like, yeah, when I was like in my 18, 19s, right? Mm-hmm. And then I had like my first big relationship, and that kind of knocked it out. Like, there was no more like emotionality like that, where I was saying, oh, you know, being open and stuff like that. So that kind of knocked it out a little bit as far as relationships go with like girlfriends or whatever. But then when my mom passed away, that is another like block. So for me, I dealt with a lot, right? I dealt with all the emotions that I was feeling, and I didn't deal with it in the healthiest way, so I kind of stifled it a little bit. But I still kind of allowed myself to feel those. I wasn't irrational, but I feel like there's times, and I don't know why, it has nothing to do with that, right? Like, it has nothing to do with that moment. But there's times, like, say, like, I'm really trying to tell you how I feel and telling you these emotions, and my emotional cup is this full, right? That's already me telling you these things. But then if I show emotion, boom, it's going to run over. And then that's when I get overwhelmed, right?
So let me ask, because obviously everybody deals with stress, and you have a very high stressful job, right? And then and we had a conversation about this. I think I'm trying to remember if it's the last podcast, but you said that for you, when you get stressed or overwhelmed with work or whatever, you're able to almost stand, like you almost, like, you just have to step aside and you just get in your head, and like and then you just kind of calm yourself. You breathe, and then you're able to kind of calm yourself.
Yeah, so I take a moment to just breathe, stop, reset,
Right.
and then reorganize my thoughts.
Do you also do the same thing when you're feeling emotional? When you talked about that cup, because you described the same analogy for that stress, right? So I guess the thing that I was trying to say is, like, so when your cup is full, and then you already convey the emotions, and then suddenly it's overflowing, that's when you get overwhelmed. Do you do the same practice that you do when you're stressful, or does it even make sense to do it?
No,
Or is it
I
a
don't.
different thing?
Yeah, I don't. I guess I don't see it like that. I don't. I just
Because you've never done that before.
yeah. I almost like start to get like this feeling of, oh, I gotta like, you know, hold it back a little bit. But I don't really know what would happen if I took it past that point. You know.
Do you feel like if you were to hold it back, is that a good thing or a bad thing? So when you say hold back, like hold back, like losing yourself, like hold back crying, hold back like screaming, like
I have no idea. I have no idea.
you've never
yeah.
gone to that place.
Yeah, I mean, there's some situations where I know that it'd be crying, right? Like before we left, like her name's Ruby, right, and her husband's Eddie. Like, she's like my mom. And before we left, she threw us like this little, you know, going away party, and everybody left, and it was just pretty much just us, you know, Dunya, me, and Ruby and Eddie, and this girl gets me every time, you know, like she just starts talking about my mom and how proud she would be. And then boom, instant, like that's when all my emotions are released, you know? And obviously in that moment it's just crying, but I don't, in other situations, like where, like when I'm expressing my love to you and Chloe, let's say, right? I don't feel like I'm going to cry. I just don't know. I don't know what's past that point.
It's a different type of emotion.
Right.
Yeah.
But I still can't communicate. I try my best, right? Like I'm letting you guys know how I feel, but I just still can't communicate and show the emotion.
Why do you feel like, because Chloe and I, we don't think that when you're doing that, like, is it because you're in your head where you're like saying it and you feel like, I just feel like saying it's not enough. Like, I want to do more. Is that what it is, or what?
No, it's just like it's just a deficit that I've had. I mean, for you guys, it might be normal because that's how you guys just know me, but it's a deficit that I've had with other relationships, like friends and family,
Mm-hmm.
where the lack of me showing that emotion, like with Dunya, for example, it really it's a struggle a little bit, because sometimes I'll say some stuff and I'll just be saying it, but for her it's not enough, right? In her family, they're very overbearing. They're very like, I need to be in your face, telling you exactly how I feel, touching your face, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not like that. So for her, for me to just say, hey, you know what? I really appreciate that you did this. I really love you. It's not enough, because I'm not showing it, you know.
So it's her fault is what it is. I'm just saying. So I'm saying, so maybe what I'm getting is because especially Danya, you're with her 24/7, right?
Right.
Because you live together, you're married. So because that she's doing that to you, I feel like you're feeling like, am I not doing enough? Or like, you know what I mean? Because for her, for you to just say that, even though for you it's enough, even though it's like I am conveying how I feel, I am conveying
Right.
my love to you,
Yeah.
but because that's not her love language, so it's like for her it's like, you're just saying it.
Right. Yeah. And I know that we've identified it and we have conversations about it.
Yeah,
So
I'm
I don't,
assuming you have.
I know
Yeah.
that like she's not, totally feeling that way about it, but I know that it is something for her. It's hard for her to kind of grasp. And it's not that I don't think that what I'm doing is good or, enough. It's that I know that I could do better, but it's hard for me to do that.
Yeah, I think you're getting there. Like, I think obviously I'm not with you 24/7, and I can only assume how you are acting at home. But and also we're also still starting to get to know each other
Right.
more, right? So we're not like we're not we haven't been friends for over a year, right? So I've yet to kind of see how you are and stuff like that with love and whatever. Obviously, I feel like you know a lot more about me than.
You think so?
No, I think with that particular thing, I feel like you know how I would act and react sometimes, even though there are times where I disagree with you, kind of thing, and I think that's okay. I think as long as you're aware of it, so you can kind of like, I just know that you're in your head a lot, so you kind of like when it happens, you kind of put yourself in that position, and then I feel like instead of just letting it happen, you're analyzing it.
Yeah,
So do
definitely.
you feel like you're over analyzing things sometimes, where it's just like instead of just letting it flow freely, you're kind of like, no, I need to kind of know exactly what's going to happen. So I'm in control of it.
Well, that's for sure. Like,
Yeah.
I even told you, like, perfect example today, right? Like, I was telling you a story about how I was having a conversation with somebody in my head, right?
Yeah. That's
Like,
what
to settle out feelings.
That's what I was bringing up. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like one of my strategies is, and I can't tell you how it came about, but I can tell you why. I remember that as a kid, I wouldn't get taken seriously, right? So I would try to have conversations with adults about things that I was trying to have conversations with them about, and I would kind of talk back and forth in my head to see how they may respond, and then have prepared answers, or prepared, not direct prepared answers, but like prepared ideas, so that I can keep up, right? And it just something that stuck with me my whole life. Like, for example, when I was a kid and say I wanted a video game, and I was going to go to my mom and say, hey, do you think I can have this video game? Obviously, if you just go in there unprepared, she's just going to be like, no, it's expensive, But then if I go in there and say, hey, mom, can I have this video game? And then she's like, well, how much is it? And I'm like, well, how much were they back then? Like $50?
Sure.
It's $50, and then I'm already gonna see that but I was prepared. I was seeing that in her face, right? Like,
Yeah,
bitch,
yeah.
this is too expensive. But
Right,
I was
right.
already prepared. It's $50, but I will wash the cars and do this and do that and do this and do that to work for it, and then I'd get somewhere, where it would be like, no, that's too expensive still. But then she'd wheel and deal with me, so she'd be like, oh, but if you do this or that, then maybe.
Yeah.
And so she'd be like, if you come to work with me and, you know, you file these files, my boss will pay you, you know, 10 or 15 bucks to earn for it. And I'd be like, all right, fine.
That's interesting because you do that a lot with other people too.
I do. Yeah.
Like you figure out what you want, and then you figure out the game plan, and then you figure out different that's why you love RPG games. That's why you love Dungeons and Dragons, because you're seeing the characters play out. You're seeing, okay, this character is this way, and I know that if I were to say this, he might say, or he or she might say that.
Yeah.
But if they didn't, they might say this other thing. So now I can counter. So that's really interesting, because for me, it's maybe that could be one of, and it's a strength, but it's also almost a flaw, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because instead of just letting go, instead of just letting like whatever you're feeling just run through you, you have to pick at everything, and
Right.
you have and you do that for the other person as well, and I think it's a strength for sure, but sometimes it feels like you have a hard time of just letting yourself go.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
you know, and just kind of, and I want to bring this up, and it might be a little personal. We can cut this out. But when you're talking about you got the house,
Mm-hmm.
and then you were here,
Yeah.
and because we were just hanging out. You got the phone call, hey, and then I mean, obviously the guy was super cool too, the realtor, and you were excited, and you were just. I could tell that you were, and I'm replaying it back in my head. It almost like you were overcome a little bit, and then it just felt like you were backing away. You were backing away from the conversation, and physically too, because we were talking about it. We were excited for you, but you were just like, "I need to go."
Yeah.
Like
locked
I'm
it
gonna
up.
go. Yeah, I need to
Yeah.
go. I need to go. So you left, and then you called your Ruby, right? And
Yeah.
then you said you broke down.
So that was like, you know how I remember in Wedding Crashers when they're just like, lock it up. No, you lock it up. No, you lock it. That's me right there. Lock it up. Okay. Locked it up. That's me.
I wish I could do that. Maybe not. Maybe not. So for me, it's like it's also a strength and a flaw, because it's a strength as in I'm in touch with the emotion or whatever it is. I let it flow through me. I cry, get angry, whatever, and then after it subsides, then I think about it. You're almost the complete opposite.
Exactly.
But the fear is, at least for me, the fear is if you overanalyze it, then you're not able to let it flow out.
Exactly.
Because-
and that's the problem, right?
Because you're like, oh, I already know why I'm feeling this way. I already know why I'm angry, sad, whatever.
Right.
So the next step for you is like, there's no point for me to feel that emotion now. Because
Exactly.
I already know exactly why.
Well, not to feel it. There's no point for me to portray it.
Right.
So the doer, right? You're gonna allow yourself to go through. So, for example, say the roles were switched, right? And me and Dunya were Chloe, and you and Chloe were us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that moment, obviously, it's hard for you to understand how I felt, right? But from what I'm telling you that I felt. Do you think that you would have released? You would think you would have cried in front of us? You would have been okay with crying in front of us?
Yeah, I would just let it go. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, for me, I don't know.
I gotta reset the timer. 29:59.
Reset. So for me, I think that it wasn't that I didn't want to cry in front of you. That had nothing to do with that. It had nothing to do with pride. It had nothing to do with embarrassment, right? For me, I didn't want to put you guys in an uncomfortable position, just because if the roles were reversed, I would be uncomfortable with it. You know, like if you started crying in front of me, which is weird because people cry in front of me so much, man. But if you started crying,
Feel strong, huh?
no, it's just no. I don't get it. Like, you know, people I'll be talking to people and then they just start crying. And I'm just like, oh fuck. Well, I don't know what to do here. But you know, I try my
Interesting.
best to be supportive or whatever. Like, I would be happy with you. I would enjoy that moment with you. You know, but I wouldn't know how to deal with it.
I guess it
because-
depends on the emotion, because
Yeah,
happy
yeah.
crying or happy like fuck, I've done it.
That's
You know,
easy.
it's easier because you're happy for them. But if it's like fuck, I lost somebody in my life, and you're just like, man, I'm sorry. Like you just don't exactly know how to act. You don't exactly know what to do.
I do now. That is one of the skills that I did gain, unfortunately, after my mom passed. You know, I kind of obviously relate there, and so I have become a lot better at dealing with that kind of emotion, just because, like and it's so weird, man. Like when I went back to work, and I didn't have hours to leave work. You know, when my mom passed, so I had to go back pretty quick, and people were just like all day for like the first 2 or 3 shifts. You know, they're just like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
Oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry. You know, and for me, I didn't know what to say. You know, I was just like, oh, I didn't want to say thank you, right? But like, I'm just like, all
Yeah.
right, well, thanks, you know, whatever. But for me, that was just, I didn't want that, you know? Not that I wanted to be left alone, but I don't need sorries. I needed a little bit of understanding, you know? And then one of my best friends, Ken, he was my boss. And this is when we became super close. He sat next to me. I was sitting there like taking a report or whatever, and I was done. He sat next to me and he just related with me, right? So his dad passed away from cancer when he was younger, and he kind of had to like take not control, but he had to take like that role in his family, and he related with me, and we got super close, and it helped me feel better, you know. So from that, I kind of learned, you know, instead of showing pity or bringing it back up, poking at that soreness, I can offer a conversation where I'm going to relate with you, you know, or offer a conversation and just say, hey, you know what, it's good to see you, you know, I'm glad you're back, and then offer myself, you know, as an ear if you need to talk,
Right, right,
you
right.
know.
And that's like the best way to, and it goes across all different types of people, right? That's almost like a universal way of just saying, hey, I understand, I'm sorry that happened, or like, you know, I can only imagine what you're going through, but if you need to talk, if you need some time, like I'm here to just listen, to just be there for you.
Exactly.
That's like the universal way of doing it. But but also you have a group of people where it feels like, and this is not me, trust me, I don't do this, because I was talking about how they want to fix it, or they want to like, oh, this person's sad, I need to do something to make them not sad, instead of
Yep.
letting them be sad,
Right.
you know, or just kind of like, hey, I heard the news, my condolences, and then let me know if you need me, and then kind of like walk away, right? It's
Yeah.
like the best way to kind of handle it. But having people like almost overdo it, like having people like try to hug you and try to do this and try to do that, and you're
Yeah,
just
or
like,
like give
at least
you,
for me, I'm just like, dude, it's, I don't want to say get angry, but it's like, dude, it's fine, just leave me alone right now.
especially
Like,
at work, you know.
well, yeah,
Especially at work,
especially, yeah. But I mean, yeah, if with loved ones, then it's a little different, you know,
Yeah.
obviously, and then you're able to kind of talk about it. You're able to just like either be angry or just be sad, whatever. So there's a difference, you know. So yeah, it's interesting, man. I like everybody is different in a way, but it's just how you balance that emotional output and emotional input says a lot about you, in a sense, right? It says a lot about what you went through as a kid and how you're coping it with it now.
Right.
And the fear is, I don't want to say fear, but I think, and it always comes back down to wanting to get better. So then that's part of it too, because like right now you feel like you're not able to do it, but you're getting there. You're like, you feel like, I still don't get it, but I'm trying my best to kind of understand it,
Yeah,
you
so
know?
I've identified it at least, and I think that's
Yeah.
like one of the most important parts, right? Identifying it, and then the next hardest part is just to accept it
Yeah.
and to let yourself know, hey, I kind of suck at this, and then move on
Yeah.
and then try to improve. And that's really hard, I think, for a lot of us. Like it was hard for me, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I think that I think that sometimes you get almost so familiar with people too that you kind of feel like you don't have to express emotion because you kind of, I don't want to say automatically assume that they understand how you feel, but that it's some kind of
You're
like
empathetic, like
unspoken rule,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. You feel it,
But I
yeah.
feel like that's not cool either, you know? Like with my best friend Eddie, you know, we've always like not really spoke there. We had like some serious conversations where we spoke, obviously, right? But like we've had conversations where like I tell him straight up, like, and my wife knows this, you know, that if my wife and him weren't best friends, like it would have been done, you know, I would have been, that's it. Like, because if you can't be cordial, you have to be good friends with him because he's always going to be there, you know? So we've had those conversations with where I'm letting him know how I feel and how important he is in my life. But then after that, I feel like I do a horrible job at telling him that I still love him or like that I still, you know, that you're still important to me. Still mean a lot to me, you know, because I don't say that ever. I never just say, hey, you know what, dude, like you mean a lot to me, you know?
Do you feel like because Danya's more like that, more better with, I don't say better with her emotions, but she just kind of like let it flow? Do you think they have a better relationship?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I don't think they have a better relationship, but I think that they communicate that a lot better.
Right, that's what I
And
meant. They communicate emotionally just better than what you could with
right,
him, even though he's your best friend. Like he's
right,
like your
right.
brother, you know?
But I think that there's two parts, right? Like, so, like, let's say, there's something called emotional intelligence, right? So, how aware of what you are feeling, how aware of what people in the room are feeling, you know, emotionally, or you know what the situation is, right? So that awareness is something completely different than expression. And so for me, I feel like my emotional intelligence is there. So I'm completely aware that I'm making you feel awkward by doing this, or I'm completely aware that I'm making that person over there feel awkward about doing something that you know, I'm doing. And then, or I'm completely aware that by saying things out of my mouth, it's not enough for my wife because she's not feeling that, what I'm saying, right? But the expression is something completely different. So the expression is going to be how good of a job you do at portraying those emotions, at letting other people know, you know, have access to those emotions. And that I know that I suck at. I'm getting a lot better at it, but I still suck at it.
I think knowing that it makes you uncomfortable just makes you like, I need to get a hold of it. You need to like, I need to start diving into it a little bit more because it makes you uncomfortable.
Well, actually, that's one of the things that I've been doing is that
Yeah.
like when I start to have a conversation like that, I start to feel like that discomfort and I'm like, okay, I'm in the right place. You know, if
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
feeling uncomfortable, then I know, obviously, unless it's like that pit in my stomach feeling where I'm just like, oh, this is too much, right? But if I'm starting to feel that discomfort as far as like showing emotion, then I know I'm in the right place. I'm heading towards the right place. So keep going this way. And obviously, that's being okay with being in an uncomfortable place, right?
Yeah.
But for something like this, it's not huge. When I had a conversation with my wife about our relationship and how I owned up, like I was following, I was like, I read the book, you know, Extreme Ownership, and I after reading it, I realized, oh man, like I have a lot to own up to, you know, whether or not I'm saying it out loud or doing it, right? So I could be owning up to something without saying it, but my wife needed to know that I was owning up to this stuff, right? And that was super uncomfortable for me. That was like way Twilight Zone uncomfortable. And I just kept riding that wave.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's super easy because it's my wife, right? It's a lot different than doing it with somebody else, like a teacher or you know somebody else. But for me, it was still super uncomfortable, and I just rode the wave of discomfort, and we had an amazing conversation, and it's been super productive after that.
Have you done that with Eddie?
No, I mean, we've had conversations before about about other stuff.
Yeah.
But it's I mean, he's gonna know. Like, if he's gonna listen to this and he'll know. But like, we've had conversations before about like, about his interactions with a certain person or another person, and that was uncomfortable for both of us. And you can tell, like, that's when I identified, oh man, I don't do this enough. I don't relay emotion enough, because when we were talking about those kind of emotions, we were both uncomfortable, but we were there because like we don't have that like self-consciousness around each other.
Yeah. Do you often like check in with him and stuff and just like talk to him, or
Kind of yes and kind of no.
or do you kind of wait for each other to kind of hit each other up?
Like, I called him yesterday and I was just like, hey, I just called him because I wanted to see how he's doing, right?
Okay.
But I told him that I called him because I can't show, like, I still have that like feigned honor with him, So I was like, hey, I'm calling you. I'm really calling you because I miss you, and to tell you I miss you. But I'm gonna pretend that it's about these because he bought me some Linkin Park vinyls. I'm gonna pretend that it's about these Linkin Park vinyls, because I don't want you to know that I love you,
Why that? I know we talked about it, but because he's known you forever, why that's still that block, you feel like?
Oh, I don't think it's a block. Me and him have that kind of confidence in our relationship where we don't need that. Like,
I get you.
We wouldn't, but let's say that we didn't speak for like 4 or 5 months, right? And then he just flew here, it would be like nothing ever happened. Like, it would be like from the day that I left him and saw him to this day, it's going to be connected.
You already have that kind of very established relationship. So,
right.
So it's almost like it's not needed to say it out loud,
right.
unless either one of you are like insecure about it, then there's a difference.
Yeah, or like if we have, like if we miss each other, or if we have something that we want to tell each other, that we're excited about and stuff like that. But yeah, it's not like one of those, like, same thing with Danya, even my wife. You look through our scrolling and it's just like communicative text, right? Like, it's not, oh, I'm doing this or doing that. It's just like, get tortillas, get milk, or whatever, So like with our relationship, we don't even we don't have to have like that constant feedback, constant communication, because we're both kind of confident that that, and then we see each other every day as well.
Here's my question though. Even though you think that way, do you feel like she's just saying that so she doesn't bother you? Do you feel like if you were to do that, like, hey, I love you, or like, hey, I really appreciate what you've been doing so far, or just get something for her, or just be affectionate to her, do you feel like you don't do that because she already knows, or you don't do that because you don't want to, or it's going to make you uncomfortable?
Well, it's a little bit of both. I think that before I wouldn't do that at all, and it was expected for her to understand, I love you, like, I'm here, right? Which is a shitty thing to say, but that's like, in my head, that was the ultimate, right? Like, I'm here, we're getting through this relationship and we're improving and we're working together towards a goal. How is that not proof enough of me loving you, But obviously after
you guys aren't very affectionate.
Well, that's completely separate. Like,
at least
PDA for me is like
right.
separate, like, from our relationship. Like, PDA, I just am completely uncomfortable with.
Yeah, and that's not saying like you're making out with her. That's more like holding her hand or hugging her or giving her a kiss on the cheek or the mouth. That to you is like, oh, I can't do it.
It's not that I can't do it. I don't mind doing it, but I just feel uncomfortable with it. Like, I'll give her a kiss and hold her hand and hug her and stuff like that, but like, it'll just be a kiss, or I'll hold her hand. I don't have issues holding hands, but like, it'll just be a kiss, But like, if she tries to, so sometimes she'll see, like, we'll be around people and then, she'll try to like get up in my face and do this thing, and I'm just like, hold up. Like, we don't do that. Like, we don't, I know exactly why you're doing it, and I don't like the reason that you're doing it. So this affection is fake,
Okay, so if it's not fake, then you don't mind it.
Yeah.
But
like,
you already know, like, hold up, why are you doing this right now?
Yeah,
I get you.
Like, we've had people that we've hung out before with that, will be super PDA, all about PDA, and then she'll come up to me and then she'll try to do the weird stuff, like not like weird sexual stuff, but I mean like
just
like things out of the norm, and I'm just like,
yeah,
what, yeah. So that just the idea that bugs me.
Okay, it's good to know. Do you feel good about, because technically this was your like topic in a sense, and do you feel like accomplished a little bit being able to kind of say it out loud and hear it and having a conversation with me about
Well,
it?
I mean, I think that so I think this is why we kind of worked really well, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm the thinker, right? And obviously, especially, I think that in this episode, it's kind of clear, right? Like,
Yeah.
a thinker over analyzing things, making sure that you have a plan for discussions, making sure that you have a plan for emotions, and then the doer, where you're just feeling those emotions, you're doing those things directly, right?
Yeah.
I think that it's really awesome to have your perspective on things, because then it kind of helps me along that journey, which, I don't think that I'll ever change as far as analyzing things before, because it's always worked for me. And I feel I take pride in being a good communicator because of that,
Yeah.
And I know there are things that are lacking because of that as well. But I can work on those things that are lacking without losing my good communicating skills, But it's good to have your perspective. I like that a lot. I think that's what kind of drew us to doing something like this.
Right. Because I think I'm 100% biased with it, just because for me, and because I'm feeling it right then and there and having that emotion and having it flow through me, and then thinking about it after the fact, I think that's, because I'm biased, I feel like that works better. But the flaw is that sometimes that emotion might be irrational, right? Depending on what's going on in the situation. And it's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then it's like, now I have to apologize after, right? But then if it happens way too many times, then it's like, well, you're not even trying to change, or you're not even trying to be aware of it. And I think since having the last few parts that we talked about how I was talking to my wife, whatever, being able to see it, being able to like now I'm aware of it, right? So now I'm like, oh, I can be nicer or whatever, because you're so comfortable and she didn't say anything about it, whatever. So you just kind of like, I'm just on this train, I'm going to keep riding it instead of like taking a break, to getting off of it and whatever. So so I guess it really depends on the situation and the emotion that is being put out. So I say this would be a good end, and I think the last segment that we kind of discuss is about what we think about what we talked about.
Right.
So
as the doer and the thinker.
So now the question would be, what do we agree and disagree with this topic? I think, to be completely honest, I think what we kind of agree on it, if anything, right? Like, because we know acting irrational emotionally is bad, but talking about it after is good. And for you, thinking about it is bad, but over analyzing it is bad. And then, but the fear is not being able to feel that emotion after, because you already thought about it.
Right.
So if any, and you are addressing it. So I think if anything, we're on the same page.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're meeting in the middle, right? Like,
right.
I feel like you're right. As I analyze this, right? You're right. The fact that I take so much time to analyze, or just even start to analyze before I'm allowed to feel emotion, it takes away from that now. Right. And like, for example, in that kitchen, maybe if I cried, you guys would feel closer to me, or it would have been a better moment. Right. Not that it wasn't a good moment. I think it was a good moment, but it takes away from the possibility. Right. But then on the flip side of that, sometimes when you are feeling those emotions, it, like you said, it kind of creates a speed bump, because now you have to go back and apologize, or, especially if you did kind of react really quickly, right?
Yeah.
So there's a good middle point.
Yeah,
You know.
and it also really depends on the situation, because if
Yeah.
it's a happy moment, then there's no reason to apologize, right?
Right.
But if it's like a really terrible situation, then it's like, oh fuck. So
I actually would like to tell you a story about a dream that I had last night, and it'll kind of fit in really well with this.
okay,
So we were at a show, like some kind of concert or show, and the act takes off his shirt, right, for the act, and everybody takes off their shirt with him, all the dudes, right? So a bunch of dudes took off their shirt, and everywhere in the stadium was just guys with six packs, and then it's just my chubby ass, you know, and but I didn't care, you know,
Right,
because
right.
I love my chubby ass. So
Right,
this
right.
guy was talking about how I had man titties, and I walked up to him and I was like, "Oh yeah, you want some? I got some titties right here for you. You know, you want some?" And he's like, "Get out of here," you know, giving me a hard time or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't believe you have that girl. I should just take her from you." And then I was just like, "Yeah, go ahead, try it. You know,
Yeah,
try it."
yeah.
And he's just like, "Don't get out of here," you know. And I'm like, "No, go ahead. If you think that you can, go ahead."
Yeah.
You know. And so he went to my wife, and my wife obviously shut him down.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And he got really mad. He turned around, and then he came to try to touch my wife. And then that's when I turned it on, right? But then you were there too, but you turned it on way more. Like I stopped the hand from reaching out to my wife, and then I was gonna try to talk, right? But for you, you just like completely removed him from the situation.
Yeah. What's funny is I would have 100% would have done that for
And
sure.
that's the balance, right?
For
like
sure, I
that's
would have
like
done
the
that.
balance. Like I feel like it takes a lot for me to get aggressive, and in that situation, absolutely, that's time for me to get aggressive, right? But at the same time, there's still something there that's just like, all right, I'm going to interrupt the behavior that is immediately dangerous, right? But then I'm still going to try to maybe. The honest truth is, I would have tried to make that person feel stupid by using my words, right? Because I feel like that hits him harder than if I would have punched him physically. But then at the same time, like you were there and you just completely removed the situation, and that was like also an effective way to do it, right?
Right.
I just think that I thought that was funny, and I didn't really think about that until we were setting up to do the podcast, and that dream came up, and I was just like, dude, it was like that's like perfect example.
What's also funny too, because if that were to really happen, I feel like play by play, that's how it would have happened, you know?
Right.
Because whenever I go out with my wife and even with friends, maybe you don't notice it, but I'm always on high alert to just kind of notice the surrounding, just in case, whatever. Even though you think I dress in a certain way to like, oh, be cool, look cool, whatever, I also dress so I'm able to be physical too, which is odd in a sense. Unless I'm performing or whatever, then there's a difference. But when I go out, usually I also think about just in case something happens, I'm able to react, you know, and that's very interesting too.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So with that, I think we should end it here. Thank you for listening. You can find us on Instagram at the Doer and the Thinker podcast. And then everything else we'll add to the description below. We're slowly getting to the point of starting posting and content and everything. So if you're listening, thank you. Rate and review on Anchor and whatnot, and everything else, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And then if you see it on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It's going to be at the Doer and the Thinker podcast. So thank you. I'm Xander Gray.
I'm Jonathan Serrano.
Okay, goodbye.
Have a good night.
Okay.